with me being born in generational trauma, I always wanted to be the cycle breaker because I did not want to experience what my parents experienced or the stuff that I experienced growing up. So not only do I advocate for ACEs, I'm a poster child for ACEs myself, and I am not ashamed to let people know this is me.
Welcome back to the podcast. I started this podcast as a way to help Black men in all aspects of our lives. Studies show on average we lose 2.8 years of our life when we're under heavy stress. And I think we can gain those 2.8 years back if we express ourselves healthily. Stick with me as I interview therapists, doctors, advocates, activists, and friends about how we can be better as Black men and as a Black community. If you're not subscribed to us on YouTube and following us on Instagram and TikTok, you'll definitely want to do that. Without further ado, let's get into the episode. What's up, y'all? I'm here with Dr. Tori. She does educational consulting and she is an ACEs expert, which is what we'll be talking about today. Dr. Tori, how are you?
I'm blessed. How are you?
I am great, man. It's dope to have you on the podcast. I know we've been kind of talking about doing an episode for a while, so I'm glad I finally got you on.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah, so let's just hop straight into it.
Okay.
So what is ACEs, right? Break it down for someone that doesn't have any knowledge of like mental health and all that. Yeah.
ACEs stands for adverse childhood experiences. What it is, it's like a word that was developed in 1995. After 1995, they did the study, and I'm saying it's Kaiser Permanente and the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, the same website, the same people that have the information about COVID-19. These are the same people. So Kaiser Permanente, one of the biggest organizations in California, and CDC teamed together to do this study with 17,000 people between the years of 1995 and in 1998. They came up with this study to let people know that the childhood traumas, the unhealed trauma, the generational trauma has a name, and that's where they came up with adverse childhood experiences. The acronym is ACEs. So it came from a study from two individuals, Andrew Felitti, MD, and Robert Anda, MD. And this is on top of my head. So just so you know, I recite it often. They actually had a weight loss clinic, and they noticed that people kept coming back. Like they're losing the weight, but there was a reason why people kept coming back. And that's what kind of made them start asking questions and things of that nature. And they paired with the CDC and Kaiser Permanente to do the study. And so that's where the study came from. Okay. And it was 30 questions. Since 1998, it has just changed. They actually have 10 questions now that they use. We're in the process of, I'm saying we're because I am a part of it, in the process of changing things. Because as you know, 1998, and here it is, 2022. We have COVID that has happened, that has impacted. So much stuff has happened between 1998 and 2022 that they're trying to make a lot of changes and add some things that were not added back in 1998. Things like cyberbullying. We weren't cyberbullying in 1998. We barely had internet. It just came about, you know what I mean? Right. Bullying. So there are some other things that we talk about and discuss. And so I'll go into a little bit more details about how it's broken down. So ACEs is actually broken down into 3 different categories. You have your physical abuse, your mental abuse, you have emotional abuse. And then you have category 2, physical neglect, emotional neglect, and physical, emotional, it's one more. And then there's the third category, which is household dysfunction. And in the household dysfunction, you think about the incarcerated parents, people that have incarcerated parents or incarcerated family members, divorce, people that have been in and out of the juvenile justice system, that type of thing. So that's the category. So there's 3 different categories. It's abuse, neglect, and household dysfunction. And really, it's really hard to determine that when you're younger. And I'm so glad that we discuss it now. And then there are so many mental health and medical advisors that are actually doing these screenings before they even see their patients, because it is a reason why, as we get older, we have all of these health issues and people really don't know about it. We're talking about heart disease. We're talking about stress. We're talking about, it's a lot. it is so many that is linked to ACEs, but people don't want to even discuss those things because not only are they not aware, in certain communities, and I'm going to say certain communities, they just don't talk about it. It's not okay for family members to, and I always say family members because I remember growing up with friends who they had uncles and cousins that were sexually abusing them.
Yeah.
That's ACEs. And so we don't talk about the things because it's not something you talk about. You don't really talk about that type of thing. But then as you get older, these are the things as to why, people are, not going out there and doing certain things. They're afraid of their their sexuality. They're afraid of certain things because of the things that happened to them in their childhood. So my goal is to not only educate, but just to bring awareness to this pandemic, because that's exactly what it is. It's on the same website as COVID-19. And what I find so interesting is when I went on this journey 2 years ago, here it is. They are trying to deteriorate COVID-19 right in front of us, They did the same thing in 1998 when they had this big study and it was big and they were talking about it. And here it is. It's almost non-existent. COVID-19, it has shut us down. And now they're saying we could take masks off and live our lives and be happily ever after. And it's a pandemic. ACEs is a pandemic. That's exactly what it is.
So break it down, right? Like, give me what you typically see in, like, let's say a Black man, 25. What is a typical ACEs, I guess, profile or score look like? And can you break that down? Like, can you give me some examples for someone that's like, okay, I understand what ACEs is, but I don't understand how it applies to me?
Interesting.
And we could use Kanye as an example here too, if you want to. The G
that would be good.
Yeah.
So we all love Kanye. You have people that love Kanye and you have people that don't. Kanye was with his mom. Now, what's interesting is I always try to provide realistic examples. And a few weeks ago, I actually threw Kanye out there because I saw a lot of people attacking his character in regards to how he's handling his divorce. But what people don't realize is Kanye is a poster child for ACEs. He grew up with just his mom. And so that qualifies him for the household dysfunction category. So he would be category 3 ACEs. He will be in the same category with the people that have divorced parents, that have family members that have been incarcerated. His dad was there, but not there. And what's interesting is if you listen to his new songs and the things that he got out now, he's angry at his dad. It's coming out because his mom, he believes his mom saved his life, which is the reason why he's indebted. He was always forever indebted to his mom. He did everything with his mom because someone brought to his attention that his dad didn't want him. And so now he's lashing out at his dad based off of things that happened in his childhood. His dad didn't raise him. And so not just being in an area where, low income, poverty, all of these are attributes, unfortunately, for the household dysfunction portion. Even with childhood neglect, that's number 2. So he actually qualifies in the second category for household dysfunction. And he qualifies in the third category. So the third category is household dysfunction. The second category is abuse and neglect. And he was neglected by his father. That categorizes him for 2 categories. If he has a score, if we was to give the score to Kanye, I'm not for sure what his score would be, but the average score is like 4 to 5. I actually have met people that had a 9, and I've met people that had a 1. It really just depends on how you answer the question. It's going to help you or it's going to hurt you. For the ones that's like, oh my God, I got a 5, what do I do? It's not like you just go out and change your life. There are things that you have to do in order to make it easy for you. So again, toxic stress, huge.
So break down the score real quick? Because I know you said 5, 4 to 5, you said 9, you said 1. What does
Oh,
that
okay.
mean? Yeah.
Okay.
What is it? What does the
So
score mean?
there's 10 questions. Now you can ask, I would say a lot of psychotherapists. Psychotherapy is huge. You have a different therapists that are specialized. You have some people that are specialized in ACEs, and you have some that are just specialized in their certain topic. But the ones that know, a lot of people start off their incoming as far as therapists with asking the ACEs questions. So for the therapists that do, thank you so much. We're indebted to you because that's how you know if you have it or not. It's a 10 question questionnaire, and that information, I'll send it to you. It's on the website. If you go to Google and put in ACEs questionnaire, you can take the questionnaire. It's really easy. It takes less than a minute and you can get your score immediately. So really it's just asking you those questions. Were you physically abused? Certain questions that you have. And I don't know the questions in its entirety, but it's 10 questions.
Right.
And then it gives you an ACEs score. So like I said, some people have had a 9, some people have had a 1. The average score is between a 4 and a 5, which, that's an average for anybody. You know what I mean?
Right.
When you have regular tests, that's the average question. So
right. So what does that actually mean though? Like what does a 5 mean for someone that has a 5 compared to a 1?
So really just it would just depend on what you would like to do. So if you believe that 5 is the reason why your health is deteriorating, we've had people that because of ACEs have had issues with growth. You know what I mean? I'm talking about growth, like not having to grow children because it has impacted them so bad. It really just depends on the question. So say, for example, if you were to have a 5, that means you need to identify those questions in that 5 and how it can help you, impact you, and help you lower the things that you have going on. So I'm telling you, I know people for a fact that as far as knowing that their ACEs score have saved their lives. 20% of people that find out that they have taken this test and done something about it saves their lives by 20%. Seriously, the statistics is out there. Shout out to Dr. Nadine Burke Harris. She just resigned. She was a Surgeon General in California. She has been doing ACEs testing. She has personally talked to medical providers, doctors. She gives the ACEs quiz and scores. She was screening people in California. We wanted to spread. So in California, it's a big deal. Everybody knows about ACEs in California because you have this African-American female, shout out to her, Women's History Month, that was doing her deal, doing what she needed to do. She actually was so big at doing what she was doing, she got people like Oprah involved.
Right.
She got John Legend involved. She got Taraji Henson. There's a lot of people that talk about it, and they're not ashamed of talking about their ACEs because it brings awareness to what it is and how they can help. So that 5 score is basically saying, okay, there are some things that's going on with me medically in my life, and this might be the reason why. Let me go seek professional help in regards to helping this go down. Right. So that's really what it is. You just have to take your own individual steps, which is the reason why sometimes I talk about self-care. Sometimes I talk about, talking to therapists, because it's really not about talking to therapists or going to seek therapy all the time. It's about healing. You have to know how to heal in order to take your own self to the next level.
Right. And so technically like a 5 is technically worse than having a 1.
Yeah.
Okay. So like a 5 would be like you've experienced more trauma than someone that has a 1 would have experienced.
Yes. Yes.
More childhood trauma.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. And so how can someone start working on like addressing like ACEs? I know you said they can look it up and take the questionnaire online. Let's say they've taken the questionnaire. And what would you say like are some good like steps moving forward after that? I guess it kind of depends, right?
Right. Now, I have had my own mentoring program for over 25, 30 years. I actually do peer support groups. I do peer support groups for my mentees. Been doing it. But and maybe I shouldn't put it out there just yet, but I've actually paired with an organization who actually talks about ACEs.
Mhm.
When I did my study in regards to ACEs and extracurricular activity. So for me, it was getting my students involved, my mentees, or my students, because I used to be a director of activities. So I
Mhm.
did this already. And I made sure that every student that was in that school was involved in something, whether it was sports or band, choir, whatever it was. And I watched, like I said, I did my own study, unfortunately. And that's what I got my dissertation in, ACEs and extracurricular activity. And I actually came up with my own protective factor. And so that protective factor is extracurricular activity. If you see the students are getting involved, because a lot of students don't want to go home. School is a second home for a lot of students. We have a lot of homeless students, especially in the African-American communities. You have a lot of students that are homeless, a lot of students that don't want to come home because it's the parents that are physically abusive. You have the parents that are not at home because they're working two jobs, or they're the ones that are incarcerated. So I wanted to provide that outlet for those students so they won't have to experience those type of things. Expose them to ACEs and what it is, open up that outlet for them so they can actually know not only do you have support, but you have and something extra to do besides being out there on the street doing certain things. Because I actually got all of my education from Chicago, and we all know about Chicago. Everything you see on TV is real. So when you see those carjackings, yes, they're still carjacking in 2022. When you see that there's all these different shootings and things, it's happening. It's 2022. We're talking about Chicago. It hasn't changed. So understand, not only did I come up with a protective factor, you have resilience for students, you have all of this stuff. The extracurricular activity is worth it. And I paired with a wonderful organization, and we do peer support groups where students can actually get together, talk about it, address it, and come up with their own solutions as far as helping themselves, as far as with their ACEs, because we have it. You got to think about it. In 1998, you have a lot of students that weren't even comfortable with their own sexuality, and it's 2022, and they out there.
Right.
Everybody's out there. And understand, with me being an educator, that's one of the main things when I talk to my students, it was the fact that their parents couldn't understand that they wanted to wear dresses and they were boys, or girls wanted to do certain things. So you have to understand, educators wear a hat, and our hat that we wear is huge. Here it is, 2022, and we still dealing with the stuff that we were dealing with. It's just 2022. Times have changed. And with things changing, we actually have to change with the times, which is the reason why I'm going to continue to push for ACEs, because that was 1998. And think about it, people still learning about it, and it's 2022.
Right. No, that's so true. Wow. That point about like students that come to school and that's kind of like their second home, and they're kind of like, a lot of students experience abuse at home, or they don't want to go home because they just like being at school because it's kind of a safe haven for them. Like that's so true. When
You
I
got
was
to
in,
think about it.
yeah, go ahead. No, say what you're gonna say.
No, I'm saying think about it. Even you think about it when you were in school. Did you have those friends that like stayed in school? You got to think about it. Even athletes, they have to be at school at 6 o'clock in the morning, and they don't leave till 6, 7 o'clock at night.
Right. And I was gonna say, when I was dormant in college, man, there was a couple of people that like dormant was like the only way that they had like a shelter, like a place
Mm-hmm.
to live and eat, man. Like so
Mm-hmm.
college was really their home, right? Like they
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to go back home because they came from neighborhoods that were really tough, and
Mm-hmm.
it was hard to survive there. And so like college was
That's me.
really like where they went.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that was your experience.
I will tell you, I was 17 years old. I was a first generation high school graduate. My parents didn't graduate from high school at all. I was born into generational trauma. And so, with me being born in generational trauma, I always wanted to be the cycle breaker, because I did not want to experience what my parents experienced or the stuff that I experienced growing up. So, not only do I advocate for ACEs, I'm a poster child for ACEs myself. And I am not ashamed to let people know this is me. And unfortunately, you're going to be the first person to hear it. I didn't sign my children up for it either, because I'm a recent divorcee, which means that my daughters are Category 3, household dysfunction. Divorce qualifies you for ACEs. And so just imagine, I didn't sign up for that at all. I did the best I could. However, the reality of the situation is not only am I ACEs, but my daughters are too.
Right. And that's the thing that I realized too, because now we get into a deeper part of the conversation that I think is important to talk about, like parenting. I feel like a lot of us don't realize like we're gonna traumatize our kids regardless of if we try, however hard we try.
Yep.
We're gonna end up traumatizing our kids regardless, right? And that's something that I've had to kind of come to terms with is, yeah, I'm gonna traumatize my kids, but I think it's about giving your kids the tools to be able to deal with that.
Exactly. You know what I've learned? Now, I do seek therapy. I'm not ashamed of it at all. I just want our culture to embrace it a little bit more than we do, because we don't. We scared, and it's okay. I will tell you this. I grew up in a household where yelling was the norm. And so when I grew up in that household, it became the norm for me as a parent. And one of the things that I talked to my therapist about was the fact that my daughters cry when I yell. And why are you crying? But you think about it.
Right.
Wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so one of the things she was like, when you talk to him, can you try not to yell? And I'm like, I make it be known, I'm not yelling. I'm not yelling. And I'll be totally honest, it actually has worked. I'm not gonna lie to you. It has actually worked. I do not yell. It's because now it's in my head that this was something that was brought down to me because yelling was the way that my parents communicated. And the fact that it was in tune with me, I did it. I just thought this was the way to parent when it wasn't. That's just like, no offense. Let's have this discussion.
Let's do it.
Whoopings.
I'm glad you brought it up. Let's get right to it.
So let's be clear. That's physical abuse. Some people don't like it. And let's be clear, kids will start talking about it and saying, I remember when my mama went and got a tree and she whooped my butt, baby. That is ACEs because it's a traumatic experience that they remember. Right. And we just got to accept it. There are other alternatives, and let's be clear. I do not whoop my kids. I don't. Did I before? Yes, I did. So all of this is stuff that I'm learning. So again, you had asked a question, how do we change or how are things to happen? I'm saying therapy, but then there are also some things that you have to come to realization. The things that happened in our previous generations, we're not doing no more anyway. But I can guarantee you, whooping ain't gonna solve the problem. They still gonna be bad. But if you change the way that you're addressing and talking to your children, that might help. And I'll be totally honest, they're gonna be mad when they hear this. I had to put my babies out there. I usually don't do this on podcasts, but yeah, I yelled, and I will admit that I'm human. And I used to yell at my daughters, and ever since I actually reached out to a therapist and talked to her about it, she told me not to do it and tried not to do it. And I could see the huge change in my daughters. I really do. I do.
You know what? I think that's so beautiful because this is what it's about, right? Like this is what it is. Like this is it's I've heard a lot about parenting, and I think a lot of what I thought when I was younger is like, oh, my parents are perfect and they got it figured out and all that kind of stuff. That is such a lie, man. Like, we're all human beings, right? Like we're all trying to figure it out, right? And our parents are too. I think once the quicker we figure that out as children and as adults, right? As adult children, especially, and be able to give our parents that grace, man. Like I think I've been able to get into that bag as I've gotten deeper into my healing journey, is like giving my parents that grace, man, because my mom, I grew up, when you talk about you grew up in a yelling household, I was like, yeah, man, me too. I was thinking the same. I was like, yeah, me too, bro. Like my mom is explosive. Like she would have her moments where she kind of explodes because and now I know in hindsight that she's dealing with so much stress. Like she's working all the time. So when she gets back home and things aren't the way that she wants it to be, that's how she flips out because it's like, and this extra thing, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just that one thing that puts the icing on the cake for her that kind of tips her over, and she can't have that kind of reaction at work. So we get it. We used to get it growing up, right? And so I understand like having a parent that yells, but it's it was really
heartwarming for me to hear that you went to therapy and you was talking to your therapist about it. Not only did you take some time to reflect and understand what your therapist was saying, but you were open-minded enough to try a different approach. And I think that's a lot of times what we get stuck in the Black community is, this is what my parents did. This is what I grew up with. So this is what I'm going to do. And it's like, bro, you know what I'm saying? Like that may not work, bro. That may not be working.
And I encourage people to try it. You know what I mean? First off, like I said, therapy isn't for everybody, but you said a key word, your healing journey. That's what everybody has to do. You have to find your way of healing. Now, one of the main things that I used to blame my parents for is their childhood trauma. They couldn't. I blame them for the parents that they were, but my mom was abandoned when she was 8 years old. She was sexually abused when she was 16. My dad's mother died when he was 16. He went straight into the military. You're talking about PTSD and everything else. And here it is. They yell. Love them to death. They did the best thing that they could. But I never, going back to what you said, I never wanted to go back home. I flew from Kansas City so quick. I promise you, I shout out to Kansas City. I love Kansas City to death. That's where I was born and raised. But I flew nest the first opportunity I got. While I'm excited to be the first person to graduate from high school, I have to tell you the story as to why, because I didn't want to be brought up in poverty. I didn't want to go through the stuff that my parents went through. I wanted to be that change agent. I wanted to be that cycle breaker. So we have a lot of similarities because when I was in college, that first semester, I kicked it so hard. They gave me that letter and said, you're on probation. If you don't get it together, I'm kicking you out. Baby, I did with everything I had to do at Central Missouri State University to stay there. And look at me now.
Right.
No joke.
Seriously. A whole doctor, man.
A whole doctor. Yes.
That's a true inspiration, man. Like, I love that. And for you, like, I think what it really was is like, yo, listen, my back is against the wall. When you're back against the wall, you figure some things out.
Absolutely.
You figure some things out and quickly.
And I think that's the great thing, because growing up, it was Cliff and Claire. Cliff was the doctor, Claire was the lawyer. Those was our role models. That's who we had. It wasn't too many doctors. And it's still not. So it's honorable that somebody is average, because it still amazes me. I'll be totally honest. It's like, Dr. Williams, who, me? Oh yeah, hey! Because I still feel like I went through the experience for everybody else, so they can also understand if I did it, then they could do it too. Right. So that's why I went into advocacy for ACEs. This is a passion for me. I have to save lives. Educators, this is what we do. Why didn't I go into the clinical portion? I actually did, because I am a behavior health expert. This is what I do. Certified clinician. I'm trauma informed, ACEs trained, all of that.
Right. Man, that is so dope. I'm so glad you got into talking about like your parenting journey and was vulnerable with that, because I feel like a lot of people need to hear that. Like, I just put up a clip with Tice. We had a podcast episode where we were talking about how to transform as a man. I think it's episode 41. Okay. He was talking about how he doesn't want to beat his kids because he feels like beatings force children to operate at a lower vibration, and it just puts them in a scarcity mindset because they're operating based off of fear. And a lot of men were in the comments like, nah, spare the rod, spoil the child. You gotta beat your kids. You gotta set them straight. Nah, there's a place for corporal punishment and raising your kids and all this. I was just like, bro.
Let them talk to Dr. Tori, because once I talk to them about ACEs and what it is, I bet you I can change their mind. Right. I'm telling you, I'm ready.
Man, listen, man, they need to have that conversation with you, man. So please break it down one more time for people.
I got it.
Yeah, please break it down. Why the beatings are such a troublesome thing when raising kids.
It's a trigger. Kids already cry. As soon as you say, I'm getting a whooping, the word whooping is a trigger, especially when you're inflicting pain on a child. That's physical abuse, period. Know how you look at it. I know you the mama, you're beating your child. How many kids have gotten whips on their bodies for things that they did wrong? There are other ways that you can punish your kid. You do not have to whoop your kid. I could take a phone away and my kid is like, oh, I'm about to. You can find other ways to punish your child. You don't necessarily have to whoop them. The whooping is not going, and we can talk to, that could be a great study now that I think about it. Whooping your kid versus not whooping your kid, even whooping your kid and stopping whooping your kid to see what type of change can happen. It's a trigger. I always tell any of my clients, identify your triggers. Even with stress, identify your trigger. If you hear whooping, you're going to be frazzled. It's going to bother you. That's why kids immediately do this. They put their hands up and they walk away. Some kids run, some kids do it. Tell the truth. Kids will run. As soon as they find out they about to get a whooping, even a dog, you know what I mean? Like, you think about it.
Right.
When kids, especially little bitty kids, know that they're on punishment, they're going to cry, they're going to run because it's a trigger. It's not okay. I'm telling you now, I can pull up statistics quick. I'm good at it. I love research to show how it is not effective at all. It does not help at all. It actually hurts your child and put them in a situation where it's a flight or fight syndrome. And eventually when the kids get older, and you know that, they start to fight instead of running. Because I just seen a couple of kids grab them belts or they get to swinging. So I'm telling you now, it's 2021, y'all. This generation different anyway. Them weapons ain't helping at all. You got to find other ways or other alternatives to punish your children, because weapons is not the answer. I'm sorry.
Nah, and that's a fact, man. I was telling people, I was like, yo, listen, I used to get beat because my room wasn't clean.
Exactly.
And let me tell you something about that, right? I used to get beat because my room wasn't clean. I shared a room with my brother. So most of the times, like, I'm not gonna lie, there was times when the room wasn't clean because of me, right? Like, things were just all over the place. But most of the times the room wasn't clean because of him, right? And so he's my younger brother, and I'm trying to get him in shape and like, yo, bro, put this away, put that away. But you got to remember, I'm a kid too. Right. So like, things slip my mind. Like, one day I want him to do it. Other days I don't really care too much. But now
you the oldest brother? Or
yeah, I was the older brother. Yeah.
Ooh.
Right. And so now we're both getting beat because the room isn't clean. So at that point, it's like, what are you really teaching me? That I'm responsible for what he does or doesn't do?
Right.
Like, what you're really ingraining in my head is that I need to be responsible for my brother's actions. Right. Like, you're not even really teaching me the action of cleaning my room and why it's important and why I should do it. Most of the times I'm only cleaning my room out of fear of getting beat. I'm not cleaning my room because I actually want it clean.
You are having a moment right now.
Right.
You are.
Yeah. And that's what I was telling people on the page is like, yo, bro, you got to understand, if you want to raise your children the right way, you have to understand how your behavior influences their thought. Right. And not just doing things because you want them to do things right then in that moment, because they're going to do it. But how is that teaching them how to think for themselves? As a parent, we're supposed to be like, I personally think, right, I'm not a parent yet, right? But I personally think that our job as parents is to teach our kids how to become effective at being their own individuals, how to become great thinkers, teaching them critical thinking, all these things. How are you going to do that if all you're doing is beating lessons into them?
Come on and keep advocating for aces. Let's go.
That's all I'm saying, man. Like, beatings never really did anything for me, because I would get beat and then the next week the room wasn't clean. So
and guess what? It doesn't help at all. And that's just one thing. But what I love is that you into it now. You know what it is, because I provided a great example. And now that you're thinking about it, you're like, dang, this is aces for real. Because it really didn't help anything. It really didn't. And people can be quick to say, oh, spoil a child. No, boo-boo. I had to go there. I'm sorry. I had to say, no, boo-boo. Like our people. But it's not okay. And I'm glad that you came to that realization and provided a great example, because, yeah, baby, you grew up with aces too. Sorry.
That's a fact. No, that's true. It's all right. It's all good. We like, a lot of us grew up with it and we don't understand it, man.
Yeah. And all my goal is for you to understand it. You know what I mean? It's once you understand what it is, then you can do the things you need to do. People that have high stress levels, that have high blood pressure, that's aces. It's linked. Toxicity, linked. Stress, linked. I do stress classes right now,
Mm,
linked.
mm,
People go and eat, eat, eat. What we do is comfort food,
mm,
don't we? Especially in
mm.
our African American community. As soon as we get a
Yeah.
funeral, somebody died, that's stress. What we do? Eat.
Mm.
Trust. I can sit here
Damn.
and talk about it all day. I'm glad
Damn.
you did this because this is what it is. And
Right.
unfortunately, I am not alone. It's other people out there. So shout out to all the people. I actually have a lot of connections overseas.
Mm-hmm.
The people in the UK are huge. The Caribbean, they have ACEs Caribbean, they have ACEs in the UK, they have ACEs overseas because this is a worldwide pandemic. This isn't
Right.
something that we're doing. I just want us to hit up our African American community.
Mm-hmm. So
And let's
please,
go ahead.
yeah. So please tell people where they can find more about ACEs, like how they can get more involved in learning about it, how they can get
What's
more involved in your work, what you're doing, what you're planning, all that good stuff.
interesting
Yeah.
is if you really want information about adverse childhood experiences, you can go to cdc.com.
Mm-hmm.
When we first connected, what I love is when we first connected, we were starting on our journey. I love everything that you're doing because your purpose is driven and you're there. Same for me.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have known. I got a huge following, I think. And those people are ready. I get resources. People send me stuff all the time. I am found on Instagram. My screen name is Dr. Victorious. I have a website. It's bevictorious.com. Like I
Mm-hmm.
said, I've been a life coach. I am a mentor. I do ACEs trainings. I do ACEs classes, individual and coaching. I do a lot. I'm a jack of all trades. Trust and believe me. I even do college and career for those students that are first generation students to help them get to college. So I do everything. And
Mm-hmm.
my whole goal, majority of the people that I meet, honestly, we're all linked through ACEs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just being honest with you. Once you know what it is and realize what it is, that's it. So
Right.
I'm Dr. Victorious everywhere. Victorious is VICTORIEUS. My name is Dr. Tori. So that's how we came up with Victorious. It was actually given to me by two people that I love to death because I'm a change agent. That's exactly who I am. And I'm here to change people's lives. So
Listen, I love it so much, Dr. Tori. Thank you so
yes,
much for coming on the podcast and spreading
my
your knowledge.
pleasure.
I appreciate it for sure.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. You know, if you need anything, my brother, I'm here with you. So if you need anything, please let me know.
Absolutely, I will.
Yo, I'm excited, man. We're currently building the exclusive community and it's going to have so many dope features. We're partnering with a Black organization to offer low-cost therapy to each member of the exclusive community. And when I say low cost, I mean that members will be able to get therapy sessions for less than $50 regardless of who they are and where they are. We're also going to have free ebooks and courses, including both the Hurting the Healing ebook and the therapy ebook I'm currently writing, live podcast episodes where you'll be able to interact with the guest and I in real time, community forums, exclusive merch, and categorized content so you can easily find information that may be useful to you. So go to expressyourselfblackman.com/therapy and register for early access. It's literally a 30-second process. I just need your name, email, and social media handle to make sure you get access before anyone else. And before I dip, I just want to thank you for your support. Without people like you, none of this would be possible. I can't wait to see you when we launch.
Sometimes I know you feel like you ain't got nobody to speak to. A shoulder to lean on somebody you could preach to. No, you need to hear it, my brother, I love you. We got way too much to live for.